Burnett. I am your astrologer, and I'm back again with the messages for the week of May 5th, 2025. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Enjoy all of your Mexican treats throughout the day. I'm not sure if I would do that on a Monday, but hey, more power to you. This week and this month, things are finally settling down a bit and things are starting to move forward. So we're going to take a look at what all of that means, of course, in the week ahead. And if you would be so kind and click on that subscribe button below, then you'll make sure that you get notified every time I post this new content, which I do with an astro lesson and tarot card reading every week. I also post daily with a tarot card message, which also gives you a little mini astrology lesson. And go out to my website, maraleeburnett.com. There you get all of my written content. And I'm almost done with July, so that, again, the more you learn, the more you know, the more you prepare to work with the energy that's available to you at the right time, the easier it is to manifest the things that you've been working so hard to gain. All right. As usual, I am using the AstroGold software here to break it down day by day, and I focus on the priority energy, the bold lines that you'll see on the screen in front of you. And without a new moon or a full moon this week, this will be another kind of quick video, which is nice. But next week, we will be diving deep into the Scorpio energy and talking about that big full moon. So this week is that transition time. So on Monday, May 5th, as I said, happy Cinco de Mayo, we are beginning to feel like we can move on and move forward. And part of that is because here we have Mars in the sign of Leo that is now past its what we call post-shadow period, which is finished covering all of that retrograde area. It's now moving forward, and since Mars is our motivation and our energy, and it doesn't have to slow down to look at things closely one final time, and it's getting away from its opposition with Pluto, things can start to loosen up and lighten up, and especially since Leo is such a fun energy, right? Leo is a sign that rules the 5th house. It's about children and love and passion and our hobbies. So it's time to get moving in those areas, and in whatever house this is traveling through for you. Again, you want to get moving. Now, speaking of Pluto, we have just seen Pluto go retrograde. And so when Pluto or an outer planet goes retrograde, it's not like a personal planet where we notice things, as I mentioned, like Mars and Venus and Mercury, things that are a part of our day-to-day life, slow down, get difficult. This is more internal work. Especially with Pluto, it's things in the subconscious mind, things that are beneath the surface that we begin to work on. It's a really good time to do any kind of hypnosis work, for instance, because of the fact that Pluto is in Aquarius and it's retrograde. And something about the work that you need to do is showing up with the help of Venus in the sign of Aries, right? Venus is moving forward. It is in its post-shadow period. It has to get to 10 degrees Aries to be completely out of all of the retrograde work. It's got to pass over the eclipse point. But today, Venus joins with Pluto, and there may be something going on today where women feel especially empowered. A woman leader may feel especially empowered. Pluto's about transformation. This is a woman and her people. So we'll see how that shows up in your own life, right? You and your people, your tribe, they give you strength. So if you want to accomplish something on Monday, make sure you're connecting with your friends and see what it is that you can achieve, right? The Aries energy is me. What do I want? What do I desire? What am I passionate about? And maybe it's time to kick off a rebirth of yourself, your self-image. Maybe it's time to make that hair appointment, right? So there's something about the day and beauty and money and women and power that is showing up for us. The other thing showing up for us is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is also now completed its post retrograde. So it's moving forward, showing us pieces of Gemini that we haven't been experiencing yet, and getting ready to get out of this sign that it really does not enjoy. These are the last 3 weeks of Jupiter in Gemini. Today, there's something we're learning when the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, in Aries, is speaking in harmony with Jupiter. So it's a big day for information and learning. It's a good day if you want to sign up to learn something. It's a really important day for speaking up and speaking out. And Jupiter blesses us, right? It especially blesses us when we challenge ourselves to grow, because that's what Jupiter's about. It's a huge planet for a reason. It wants you to grow and expand. And while it's at fall in the sign of Gemini, because it doesn't like to get caught up in all the small details, something about this journey is a little bit easier when Mercury is helping Jupiter with managing the details, so Jupiter doesn't have to do it itself. So again, something important, some important messages may come out on Monday, and maybe that's what makes our celebrations a little bit more fun as we come together. All right. Last week, if you were following me, which means of course you subscribed and you got this message that I posted this week, we started talking about the fact that Uranus, surprise, innovation, freedom, is speaking in harmony now with the nodes. So this is still going on for a bit longer. Exactly. It's still an influence, but whenever the contact is exact, of course, we may notice the potential easier. North Node is where we're heading. Dreams, intuition, feelings, inspiration, music. That's North Node in Pisces, healing. And the South Node in Virgo, letting go of things like perfectionism, OCD-ness, overly critical thinking, especially towards ourselves. Right. So there's something with Uranus's influence here that is inspiring us to do the work, to learn the lessons. And it can come up in surprising ways. So this has been going on already. This isn't new. It's starting to wind down just a bit, but it still is very influential. So we keep our eyes on that on Monday, May 5th. All right, let's move ahead to Tuesday. And just like last week, because we don't have a lot of things that are changing or transitioning, we're not going to have a lot to talk about. This might be a little bit of a boring video because of that fact. So here on Tuesday, it's literally rinse and repeat. We still have Venus talking with Pluto. It's closer in, again, its exactness. When you look at it, it's 3 degrees, 42 minutes, 3 degrees, 49 minutes. So something about this combination of powers may come up in a bigger way on Tuesday. And we still have the same influence for that Uranus energy with the nodes. And there's Mars just clipping right along. So one more thing about Tuesday, because Mercury moves so fast, it is having a conversation with Chiron. So this again has the potential for there to be messages and words that help us heal, information that could help us heal as well. And they're both speaking still in harmony with Jupiter. And in fact, Jupiter and Chiron are starting a bit of a long conversation about healing, about our pain, about maybe leaders and their power and how they use it. So there can be strong words. Hopefully those words are healing and not hurting. And of course, Jupiter wants them to be positive and happy and uplifting. So watch the messages really Tuesday and Wednesday, because Mercury's going to just join Chiron. Then it's just going to be on the other side of Chiron on Wednesday. And that still has the potential to heal. So on Wednesday, we're now seeing the second conversation with the moon in Virgo and the South Node. Because as I've been talking this year, the South Node has been down here by itself. And it had all this energy up here in Pisces. We had Mercury there, we had Venus, we've had Saturn, we had Neptune, and it was just the poor little old South Node down here all by its lonesome. So I think it appreciates the support. And of course, the nodes are points outside of the moon itself. So whenever the moon joins with the nodes, it can be an important day. There can be an important realization about something about the past, because of course we're talking about the South Node in Virgo. There can be something that we're willing to release and let go and complete, emotions that we want to purge. Again, that perfectionism, that OCD-ness, the rigidness, right? There's things that we can do with this energy that will help us. And that's one of the things that's coming up today. Of course, that means that the moon is speaking in harmony with Uranus as well. And Uranus is in Taurus, which the moon loves being in that energy. So there could be some emotional surprises, especially the moon is so active. Look at all of this energy coming off of the moon today. It's speaking in conjunctly with Mercury and Chiron. It's making a square to Jupiter. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on emotionally on Wednesday, the 7th. So it's a good day to tune in and pay attention to what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What am I hanging on to? What do I need to release? Am I listening to my intuition, right? What are the lessons of the past? Something about Wednesday is very emotional. And again, something that we can be releasing and letting go of that will benefit us. All right, that is Wednesday. And as I mentioned, nothing new or different on Thursday either. So nothing that we have to bring up there. And then as we move on into Friday, this is the end of Mercury's time in the sign of Aries. And so it's later in the day today that Mercury will hit that 29, that critical degree, the one I always say, this is your test. What have you learned through all of Mercury's time in the sign of Aries? Are you speaking up for yourself? Are you thinking for yourself? Did you make commitments to do those things? Because there can be something that happens today that tests you and says, okay, here's this opportunity. Will you do it? Will you stand up? Will you speak your mind? Will there be some kind of a youth movement, right? Mercury rules over young people and children. And Aries is about gaining independence in some way from someone else. So look for there to be some intense tests of your self-confidence. And you have to be willing to stand up and speak up for yourself in order to get past this place. When you think about the signs in the zodiac, right? And you think about the progression of your development. Well, of course, Aries is the self. This is the first thing that we learn is, who am I? That's it. The first experience is, who am I? And then it moves into, now what do I value? What's my worth, right? And that's what we're going to talk about on Saturday. And so as we move into Saturday, we are seeing Mercury move into the sign of Taurus. Now, information can start to slow down a bit when you move into an earthy sign, right? And then Mercury also, though, with all of the richness that is all the sensuality, right? Words can become juicy, right? There, your speech becomes enriched when we have Mercury in the sign of Taurus. And then Mercury is also information, and Taurus is money. So there can be lots of conversations coming up that involve money and your finances. It's time to learn about money and finances. Maybe over the next 3 weeks, we're really learning what the point of all the tariffs is. That's all things that are potential and possible for us. And so we're also starting to see, right, the energies are spreading out. We've had so much concentrated energy in the sign of Pisces. And finally, like I said, at the beginning of this week, things are starting to smooth out. They feel less intense when it's not so concentrated in just one area of our life and one area of our charts. So that is the beginning of 3 weeks of Mercury through the sign of Taurus. Now, if you really want to understand the energy, start journaling, right? Mercury is about journaling. And take advantage of what you learn, how you feel when Mercury's in the sign of Taurus. And again, if there's something that you've been wanting to accomplish as far as a financial goal, well, set about doing that over the next 3 weeks. Taurus is also beauty, right? Again, are you wanting to change up your looks? This is the time to do that. It is the time to experience things, taste. All the 5 senses, I always say, are involved in the sign of Taurus. Taste, touch, feel, all of the things. So what can you do over the next 3 weeks to heighten your experiences, if you feel like you've been dull and blank, well, you got to light your senses up and try the fancy foods, try the spiciness, try something different, and take advantage of this new opportunity that is presenting itself to you. All right, then we are going to move on into Sunday. And Sunday has a little bit of intensity to it for 2 reasons. Number one, speaking of that Mercury energy, its first conversation is going to be with Pluto. And it's a square. We see that with this red line and literally this little square picture here. So there's something about the way you're approaching the topics in Taurus that we need to reconsider. Maybe this is a change in direction as far as the whole tariff goes. Maybe it's how the information is being shared that's changing. There's something that is changing because of the influence of other people, right? Because of an inner reflection, because of this Pluto retrograde energy in the sign of Aquarius. This could have something to do with, think of alternative money forms like the Dogecoins, right? All cryptocurrencies, there's something about that that could be challenging at this time. So watch your funds. Don't do or take any big risks financially during this window of time. The other thing we'll see, and it's more brief, is Mars in Leo, of course, is squaring with that moon as it's getting ready to complete a chapter in the sign of Scorpio tomorrow. So always like to look at the energy as it leads up to a lunar event, right? And this is saying that you have to make some changes in order to close a chapter and move on and move forward. So you're being given this preview on Sunday of, okay, there's something I'm stuck thinking and doing and saying the same way over and over and over again that I've got to let go of. And I've got to make a big change in order to do that. And as we will see next week, we've got a lot of support to create those kind of breakthroughs. Okay. Like I said, quick and easy. It's much easier to get through this when it's not so intense. But let's take a quick peek at next week. And as I mentioned, we're going to see the full moon in the sign of Scorpio that will kick the week off. So this is time for completion, conclusions, wrapping things up. As I look at these articles, I usually tell people, go back and look at the new moon article from 6 months ago when we had the new moon in Scorpio. What intentions did you set back then? Have you realized them? Because now's the time to realize them fully and completely, right? The moon is full. You can't put anything else in it. It's as bright as it can possibly get at this moment, with, of course, the help of the sun. Well, and the sun is going to be speaking to Uranus. So Uranus, of course, is opposing this full moon in Scorpio. So there's some surprises, there's some intensity, there's fate. So we will come back together and talk about all of that next week. And keep in mind, we also have Venus next week crossing over that eclipse point. And again, if you've been doing and feeling eclipse work, right, there's another chapter that is about to come to a close, and we won't have any other planets, any personal planets crossing this eclipse point anymore this year. So this is it. Whatever you had to release, whatever you needed to see and understand, next week's a pretty big week for those types of conversations. All right. And then we'll talk about the rulers, Pluto and Mars, and what they're doing and all the stuff. And if you want to get a preview of that right now, of course, go out to my website, MaraleeBurnett.com, register to be a member, and then you have access to all of my articles. So there is, of course, the horoscope for the month of May. Within that horoscope is this full moon in the sign of Scorpio. Then that's followed by a new moon, and that article is already out there for you as well. So go out and read them and take a look at what's going to be happening for you so you can plan accordingly. And of course, if you really want to plan accordingly, book a session with me and I'd love to walk you through the process. Of course, I also will have my tarot cards out there. Pull a tarot card for every sign so you can check those out, or just book a tarot card reading with me. I always like to sprinkle a little astrology in with those tarot card readings. So that's a really affordable way to get a little access to astrology if you don't want to book a full session. All right, that's it. Quick, simple. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. I do appreciate it. My small and mighty channel only is out there for you if you tune in. So thank you so much for doing that. And we, of course, will talk again next week. Take care, everybody. Be sure and check out your weekly tarot card messages as well. Those, along with this astro lesson, are going to give you the big picture. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you next week.